Nah, Zabanya, but be able I butchered this song like I butchered this film. Hey guys, this is Burt from Soft Tubes, and I'm here with a film review of the new remake of The Lion King, if you couldn't tell from my terrible singing before. So, I'm going to start off by saying I was not particularly excited for this film, no matter how much I like a lot of the people that were involved with it. Especially Jon Favreau. I love Jon Favreau. I think he's made films that I really enjoy. I just wasn't quite feeling this. I also wasn't excited as some people I know. I know some people who were really, really excited for this film. There were a lot of other movies that they were like, meh, don't really care about, but I really want to see Lion King. And some of those people understood that it was kind of irrational that they were so excited to see it, but they still were excited to see it. And so I just wasn't quite in there. And part of it wasn't because I'm precious about the original film in any way. I greatly enjoy the original film. It's one of the main films of my childhood, but I haven't actually watched it in a few years. And actually, in some ways, I feel like that was probably a good thing for me going into this film, because it wasn't me seeing basically the same film again. But then also, I'm not someone who has a great distaste of remakes or CGI. I think remakes can be really, really good, especially when they find a new way to tell an old story, which we always talk about remakes in terms of film and things like that. We don't talk about the fact that books technically remake a lot of stories. A lot of the basic storylines of books are remade from earlier stories and things like that. And other media. It's a thing across all media. And I also don't dislike CGI in things. I don't think CGI is getting overused as such. I think CGI for me is basically a different form of animation. And in terms of good usage, it can be done to help tell a story that otherwise would be really difficult or impossible to do. And that, I mean, this is assuming good usage of CGI, and yeah, it can be done badly, but I don't inherently hate CGI because of the few bad cases. Even if there's a lot of bad cases, I don't hate it because of that. So I wasn't like looking at this going like, ooh, they made just like CGI, not actual live action Lion King. Like, I'm not a fan. That really didn't bother me. I thought it looked good. Rather, it was simply something about this film that just didn't quite click with me. I didn't even fully understand what it was until I saw the film, but I did really, in retrospect, have a few inklings of what it was that I wasn't clicking with while like the early stuff was being rolled out. I just didn't fully grasp what it was yet. Now, I will say that this remake of The Lion King is filled with truly amazing elements, and things that deserve to be praised. This is a beautiful film with stunning and gorgeous shots that make it feel completely real, even when it's stuff that we know can't be. Pretty sure there's lemurs in this movie in sub-Saharan Africa. They don't live there. But I could also be wrong, I could have misrecognized them. But I was like, oh, that's weird. And I think they're in the original film, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, the CGI is almost flawless. So much so that many times it actually feels like you're watching a well-shot documentary and not a scripted film. There are some nice long sequences of just animals moving about that just look beautiful and real. The animals look so lifelike that it would be difficult to tell them apart from real-life counterparts. The voice cast are completely on point, as you would expect with such a varied and high-caliber cast as this has. The bigger problem is when you want more of a character/voice actor, and there just isn't enough time in the film to give it to you. Donald Glover, Beyonce Knowles Carter, James Earl Jones, Chiwetel Ejiofor, I can't say their name very well, I apologize, John Oliver, Keegan-Michael Key, Alfred Woodard, Billy Eichner, Seth Rogen. I mean, this is an incredible cast, even with those I have difficulty saying the name of. I'm really apologize. I read up how to say it and I screwed that up. But this is an incredible cast, and I only named part of it. There's still a lot of people in this film that I didn't name. These are a lot of the big names there, but I didn't name all of them. And they all bring their best work, and it shows in their voice acting. This is a film that is very familiar to those that have seen the original, and yet they still found things that they could change to make it feel at least somewhat different. A lot of the main beats are there, but there are little things to make it a bit different, so it's not exactly the same film. Some purists will take great issue with the changes, but for the most part, they're at least not, they don't do any harm to the film. They may not necessarily add a lot, but they don't harm the film. And in some cases, they actually speak to the great cultural impact the film has had, especially a lot of the Timon and Pumbaa parts start sort of referencing the culture of the Lion King and what the impact it has had on culture. It is a well-written script, which is fitting because the original was well-written and it's pretty much a transfer for the most part. Now, all of this sounds like the making of a good, if not great film. But it isn't. And it hurt me how much I wanted it to be that, while it kept defying that thing it could have been. It kept defying being good. It was just like almost there, but it just never quite reached it. And the problem here, unlike a lot of films, is not that the parts are bad, because as I said, the parts are good. All the little bits and pieces are actually really good for, I mean, there are still issues. I mean, there's bad things in here. The biggest one for me is that I love the song Be Prepared. There was a lot of talk about them cutting it. They didn't cut it. A little bit of a spoiler here. But it's still in there, but they managed to make it fall flat and feel really weak compared to the moment it should be. But yeah, so for the most part, the parts are really good. The problem is they just don't come together to make a good film. And that's a really different problem to have. And I actually don't think a lot of these elements could work together in a good way. Or at least not without an incredible amount of work and skill, which I don't know if anyone has. Like, it would take a really long time to find the best way to make this work. Which honestly kind of sucks, because this could have been a truly triumphant and incredible film. It just never quite gets there. And it's interesting because this is a film that I feel like, I'm going to say right now, if you like the original, it's a 50-50 if you're going to like this. There's a lot that's the same, and that might put you off, or it might sell you. You might be put off by some of the issues, you also might not. It's kind of 50-50. I wanted it to feel like it was a direct one-to-one, but I the people are definitely not going to like this. Oh, they definitely are going to like this. But I can't say that. I honestly could not say that. I was expecting that going in, but it's 50-50. You will go one way or the other. It's a hard thing to explain. And I know certain people I think are going to like this film. And I talk about this a lot. I think I've talked about it in videos before. I talk about it with people I know a lot. Of the difference between a good film and a liked film. You can like bad films. You can like good films. You can dislike good films and dislike bad films. Being a good or a bad film is completely different to your opinion of a film in most regards. If you like a film. A good film is based on the technical aspects. A film that you like is based simply on how it speaks to you as a person, as a viewer. I really want to do a video just sort of discussing that, and I think I will do it pretty soon, because it's come up in conversation with people I know a fair bit frequently. So I'm going to kind of work out my thoughts and sort of do a whole thing of it. But I just want to say, like, don't take my, like, right now, because I'm about to get into a lot of what's not good about this movie. Don't take this as me saying that, oh, if you like it, that's a bad thing, or you shouldn't like this film. You can absolutely like this film. It just has technical problems of putting these pieces together. So from here, I'm going to continue on, but I just wanted to kind of get that in here, sort of just set that up, essentially. Like, making sure that, yeah, because I've had a few people that have in comments, and I have no problem with people having disagreements with me in comments. I ask for it all the time. But They simply take me disliking the elements of a film or the quality of a film as me just hating on the idea that people can like a film. There was, on the Godzilla review, there was a comment about how I had a unpopular opinion. So, I wasn't looking to have a popular opinion. I was looking to have my opinion based on the technical prowess of that film. It fell flat in some respects. And that was just how I felt. So, I just want to kind of put that out there. But I am going to talk more about that later. Kind of got sidetracked here, but I'll get back to the review now. Sorry about that. But anyway, let's get back into what doesn't work in this film. So, for all the technical prowess and the beauty of the visuals, that's where the greatest problem comes from. The visuals create the biggest wall that keeps this film from being more than what it actually is. And a lot of that comes from its commitment to realism, which is completely commendable. The fact that they went, like, they picked a path. They didn't get airy-fairy about it. They didn't sort of go like, oh, we'll do that, but no, we'll pull back. They went, we're going to try and make everything look realistic. We want this to be realistic in the best terms that we can. And it is totally commendable that they picked the path. One of the worst things in film is when they try to do too much and they sort of split up too much and don't have a direct, like, clear vision of what they want. Now, a lot of that happens with a lot of really safe studio films. They don't have a clear enough vision, so they sort of do a little bit of everything, and they don't have, like, this is what we're trying to do. Here, they knew what they were trying to do, and they set out for it. And even if it does hurt the film, it's commendable that they did do that. They didn't try to hedge their bets. They went, at least on this one thing, this is what we want to do, let's do it. So I actually really am appreciative of the fact they did that. Problem is, it is also possibly the biggest problem with the film. So it is kind of a here and there situation. Maybe they should have hedged their bets, but I don't think they necessarily had to hedge their bets. They just had to find a better option. They had to go down a straight path of this is what we want, but they had to pick a different end destination, essentially. So, because this realism could have worked better in a different film. I think Jungle Book was a really good place to do it because it had human characters, and I'll get into a little bit, at least one human character for the most part, and I'll get into why that would be in a little bit. It sort of flows into what I'm talking about here. So essentially, realism here really only causes moments, for the most part, given the kind of film this is, The Lion King is, it really only causes moments that feels like they should be grander and more epic, particularly the musical moments, the songs and all of that. It makes them fall flat and half done. They don't quite reach the point they should be. You're watching animals move about while music plays for the most part, and there's just nothing that fun about it, as it should be. Like, I Just Can't Wait to Be King. It's a couple of lions running around while a bird flies around, and there's a bunch of other animals there, and they move around and stuff. They could have taken documentary footage and just plopped the song over the top, and it would have been a lot of the same feelings. All emotion is muted as the characters, realistic animals, which, as I said, is very impressive, and it's admirable they went for that. But really, all they do is move their mouths to match the words that are said by the really talented voice actors. It's just missing. The original animated film, they were able to animate so much emotion into those animals because of the way they did it. It allows you to see the pain, the sadness, the fear, the joy of these characters. Here, they're flat, and it creates a disconnect that is difficult for the voice actors to bridge, try as they might. It just takes the emotion, magic, and soul of the original and tries to trade that off for a visual experience, but it's not quite enough to make up for it. It's also a problem that I sat there a lot of the time going, I don't know which character this is. Like, it was more of a problem with the female lions for the most part, because they all kind of look the same, unless you're going to spend the time to go like, oh yeah, Simba's mum is a bit more subdued in the colouring, she's aging, so she's a bit like lighter in certain spots. Unless you got the time to do that, until they start opening their mouths, it's very hard to know who is who. And part of the point of doing a film is you're trying to do a visual story. If you just wanted them talking, you could have done a radio show, you could have written a book, but you wanted to do visual. So you need a visual way that someone can look at something and instantly go, that's this person, that's this person. It's harder here. And that is a real problem. Now, as I mentioned, there are some changes to the film that they do throughout. And for the most part, they're alright. Some people are going to absolutely hate them. But for the most part, they're alright. The one that I really didn't like, there were jokes that fell flat, but I know they're jokes that fell flat for me, that other people could enjoy. They just didn't quite work for me, but there were other jokes that worked fine. The only big moment that I didn't like was the Be Prepared song. I'm pretty sure they cut a lot of the actual song, and it just doesn't feel right. Not for the moment it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be basically the big swing of the film. It's this big change that causes all of the events of the film to go into motion. It doesn't feel that way. But on top of that, there's a lot of changes to the film, and more so additions to the film, that pulled me out, and because they caused me to ask, why did they change that? Or why did they add that? Much like pretty much almost all of the Disney remakes so far, they've been extended by adding things that aren't in the original. And I kind of get it. They want to, films have a thing about being 2 hours these days, so they're trying to hit that mark. Trying to show that they are value for money. Problem is, like a lot of the stuff that's been added to the Disney remake so far, nothing has really been added except for fluff. It does nothing for the film. It's simply there to extend that runtime. It doesn't make the film better. It doesn't change how anything in the film is viewed or treated. It's just there. Thankfully, there seemed to be less of it here, at least that I noticed. They seem to be more in favor of changing current scenes to extending them out a little bit, rather than adding in just new stuff. But it still does occur, and it's still pointless. If you're going to add something, they should have added something that changes the way we view a character or view certain things. I do feel they did a little bit more to make the hyenas more known, understand them, but it's still not a lot, and then there's just a lot of other stuff that's there or changed. The Lion King is a film that is not as good as the parts that make it up. In all honesty, if there was some way of syncing the new voice cast to the original animated film, you would have something truly amazing. Because this voice cast is incredible. I think they did some amazing work, perhaps better than the original. I do need to rewatch the original now to get a better idea of that. But I think, yeah, you sync those two things up, it could be incredible. But really, all they had to do was relax their reach for realism somewhat. Like I said, they just need to find a different endpoint. Find somewhere else to go instead of over here. And they could have tried to do something that allowed them to move back into that, get a bit more of the animation sensibility about it to come through. That would allow the animals to feel a bit more emotional. To feel more, they look real, they don't necessarily feel real in terms of emotion or narrative. And I think they just needed something to make them feel that way. Just add a little something. It's all they kind of had to do. And it's really annoying they didn't quite get there. I mean, it wouldn't have been much, just a little bit more animation in the face would have done it. Having a little bit more come through the eyes. The eyes are very flat. But they just didn't go that way. They went for realism, and it hurt the film. For me, The Lion King 2019 remake, to try and clarify, because it's going to be a thing you have to kind of clarify now, it gets 3 stars out of 5. Though would have been less if the parts that made it up weren't so good in spite of the completed film. I was very tempted to give this film less, but I went, no, there's so much good stuff in here. The final film may not come together very well, but it only really pushes up a little bit. I really wanted this film to at least be a 3.5 when I was going to see it. It's not there. That all being said, this is a thing I'm doing with children's films, except I didn't do it with Toy Story because my rating was the same as I would imagine it is for children. With children's films, they're made for children. They're not made for nearly 30-year-old white guys like me. That's not who they're meant for. And even though this film is full of fan service for fans of the original film, it is not meant for them, or at least not for the most part. It is a children's film made for children. When I went and saw this film, it was opening night. It was last night, opening night here in Australia. It was in a cinema that was almost full, and it was most of those people were families with young children. There were a few that were couples and groups of friends, but mostly it was families with young children. And they seem to greatly enjoy this film. They really, really seem to like it. I might be wrong, but it seemed to me that it was the children that started the applause at the end. I'm pretty sure the first claps that I heard, because there wasn't applause at the end of this screening, the first claps I heard were children. Normally, even at a children's film, it's parents who will start a clap and get their kids involved. Here it seemed to be the children. So in terms of a children's film for children, ignoring all those attempts at fan service, I am going to give this 4 out of 5 stars. I'm tempted to go higher. For a children's film, I'm tempted to go higher. Opposite of my own personal opinion, where I was kind of going to go lower than my 3. The only reason I am not giving it more than 4 is I'm not completely convinced, as of yet. I might do an update if this changes, if I see evidence up to the contrary. But I am not currently convinced that this will hold a place for children that will last as long as, especially compared to the original film did for children at the time. I don't think this will hold children enough, especially when placed against a lot of other recent films, especially Toy Story 4, which is a fantastic film. I cannot talk about how good Toy Story 4 is enough. But against other recent films that are better as complete films and are also both more magical and fun, Lion King just isn't quite fun enough. I don't know if Lion King is going to hold up for children as much. But I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I will try. If I see evidence that, children absolutely love this film, it's going to hold their imaginations for years to come, I will change this, and this may even get to 5 stars, if it seems that strong, for my children's review. My personal review is probably not going to change, unless I see it again and I feel something different. But for the children's review, it could go up. We'll have to see. But I'm got a little bit of a thing to add on the end here. Thing is, I love hyenas. Hyenas are one of my favorite animals. So I'm going to say perhaps the anti-hyena bias of the film does sour my opinion a little bit. But I knew that going in from the original. So I don't know whether it's affected me, if it's given me a bias against this film. But if you think I'm being too harsh, you can take that as the reason that my love of hyenas have biased me against The Lion King. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought of The Lion King in the comments below. I mean, if you didn't like it, like agree with me, I absolutely expect some people to let me know. And that's totally cool. As I said earlier, I totally expect people to disagree with me. It's part of what's great about art forms and media. Entertainment in general is people don't all agree on what is good entertainment. It's part of what's brilliant about it. But my opinion is mostly coming from the more technical aspects, the things that make it up, not just my personal feelings of the film, although they weren't too great either. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are, if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me. Whether you liked it or didn't, let me know some reasons why you went which way you went. It's always good to see that opinion for things. If you did like this video, make sure you hit that like button. And if you didn't like it, you can hit that dislike button. And if you are new to the channel, this was a bit of a long video, so congrats for getting all the way through if this is your first video from me, from SoftTubes. But if you are new, if you like film reviews, if you like reaction videos, if you like gameplays, the gameplays are a little sparse, but they happen. There was been a couple in the last week or so. There's still more to come. I'm working out some new ones. But if you like all that kind of stuff, a lot of entertainment stuff, I keep intending to do some comic talk. I do want to do a discussion. I just got to read the trade paperback of the first 5 issues of Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hahn's Die. I want to kind of do a talk about that at some point, so I might do that. But if you like entertainment, essentially, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you want to know when new videos come out, you can hit the bell. And thank you for watching, guys. Now, I will see you in the next video.
These are the qualities we see in a good wife. These are the qualities we see in Mulan.